here at the temple. And thank you everyone for who is online or who will be seeing this class later on recording. So today we are here to read and discuss about Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 42 to 45. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Nashta Prayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Panjankrihi. So, text 42. Rashasyan astham trin padan tapas saucham dhayam iti pratisandhada ashvasya mahimcha samavardaya. Yeah. Padan. Vishayanastham trin padan tapas saucham dayam iti pratisandhada asvasya mahimcha samavardayat. Vishayanastham trin padam tapas saucham dayam iti pratisandhada asvasya mahimcha samavardayat. Translation. Thereafter, the king re-established the last legs of the personality of religion, the bull, and by encouraging activity, he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth. Sorry, let me. Let me also read the purport. So I'm going to read all the verses, translation, the purport, because each of the purport and the content are interrelated. So at that end, then I will discuss about my realizations and then we can open up for discussion. So purport. By designating particular places for the personality of Kali, Maharaj Parishit practically cheated Kali. In the presence of Kali, Dharma in the shape of a bull and the earth in the shape of a cow, he could actually estimate the general condition of his kingdom, and therefore he at once took proper steps to re-establish the legs of the bull, namely austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. And for the general benefit of the people of the world, he saw that the gold stock might be employed for stabilization. Gold is certainly a generator of falsity, intoxication, prostitution, enmity, and violence. But under the guidance of a proper king or public leader or a brahmana or sannyasi, the same gold can be properly utilized to re-establish the lost legs of the bull, the personality of religion. Maharaj Parishit, therefore, like his grandfather Arjuna, collected all illicit gold kept for the propensities of Kali and employed it in the Sankirtan Yajna, as per instruction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. As we have suggested before, one's accumulated wealth may be divided into three parts for distribution, namely 50% for the service of the Lord, 25% for the family members, and 25% for personal necessities. Spending 50% for the service of the Lord or for propagation of spiritual knowledge in society by way of the Sankirtan Yajna is a maximum display of human mercy. People of the world are generally in darkness regarding spiritual knowledge, especially in regard to the devotional service of the Lord. And therefore, to propagate the systematic transcendental knowledge of devotional service is the greatest mercy that one can show in this world. When everyone is taught to sacrifice 50% of his accumulated gold for the Lord's service, certainly austerity, cleanliness, and mercy automatically ensure, and thus the last three legs of the personality of religion are automatically established. When there is sufficient austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, naturally Mother Earth is completely satisfied, and there is very little chance for Kali to infiltrate the structure of human society. A lot of these messages are self-explanatory, but as I said, let's go ahead and finish the chapter, and then we can talk about it. Pancho, do you want to say the verse here? Saya eshatya adhyasta asanam parthivochitam pitha maheno panyastam ragya nanyam vikshata haste duno sarajarishi Kauravendra Shiolasang Gajavahe Mahabhagas Chakravarti Brahashchava. Want to say? Saesha Etrati Adyesha Asanam Partivochitam Pita Manyeno Panyastam Ragnaranyam Vivikshata Aste Duna Sarajavishi Kauravendra Shiolasam Gajavahe Mahabhagas Chakravarti Brihat. Translation. The most fortunate emperor, Maharaj Parikshit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Maharaj Yudhishthir when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. Purport. The prolonged sacrificial ceremonies undertaken by the sages of Naimisharanya were begun shortly after the demise of Parikshit Maharaj. The sacrifice was to continue for 1000 years, and it is understood that the beginning, some of the contemporaries of Baladeva, the elder brother of Lord Krishna, also visited this sacrificial place. According to some authorities, the present tense is also used to indicate the nearest margin of time from the past. In that sense, the present tense is applied to the reign of Maharaj Parikshit here. For a continuous fact, also present tense can be used. The principles of Maharaj Parikshit can be still continued, and human society can still be improved if there is determination by the authorities. We can still purge out from the state all the activities of immorality introduced by the personality of Kali if we are determined to take action like Maharaj Parikshit. He allotted some place for Kali, but in fact, Kali could not find such places in the world at all, because Maharaj Parikshit was strictly vigilant to see that there were no places for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. Modern administrators want to banish corruption from the state, but fools as they are, they do not know how to do it. They want to issue licenses for gambling houses, wine, and other intoxicating drug houses, brothels, hotel prostitution, and cinema houses, and falsity in every dealing, even in their own. And they want at the same time to drive out corruption from the state. They want the kingdom of God without God consciousness. How can it be possible to adjust two contradictory matters? If we want to drive out corruption from the state, we must first of all organize society to accept the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And to make the condition favorable, we must close all places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. These are some of the practical lessons from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse 45. Itham bhutanubhavoyam abhimanyu sutho nrupa yashya phalayatha shaunim yuyam satraya dikshita. Itham bhutanubhavoyam abhimanyu suto nrupa yakshya palaya shaunim yoyam kshatraya dikshitaha. Prabhu, you want to try, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Itham
bhutanubhavoyam abhimanyu suto nrupaha yashya palayatha shaunim yuyam satraya dikshitaha. Itham bhutanubhavoyam abhimanyu suto nrupaha yashya palayatha shaunim yayam kshatraya dikshitaha. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this. Purport. The Brahmanas and the Sannyasis are expert in the spiritual advancement of society, whereas the Kshatriyas or the administrators are expert in the material peace and prosperity of human society. Both of them are the pillars of all happiness, and therefore they are meant for full cooperation for common welfare. Maharaj Parishit was experienced enough to drive away Kali from his field of activities and thereby make the state receptive to spiritual enlightenment. If the common people are not receptive, it is very difficult to impress upon them the necessity of spiritual enlightenment. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the basic principles of religion, prepare the ground for the reception of advancement of spiritual knowledge. And Maharaj Parikshit made this favorable condition possible. Thus, the Rishi of Naimisharanya were able to perform the sacrifices for 1,000 years. In other words, without state support, no doctrines of philosophy or religious principles can progressively advance. There should be complete cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas for this common good. Even up to Maharaj Ashoka, the same spirit was prevailing. Lord Buddha was sufficiently supported by King Ashoka, and thus his particular cult of knowledge was spread all over the world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled punishment and reward of Kali. So, let me talk about um, what I have realized from here, and then we can discuss as well. Right? So, the way I see this is two things, right? Macro level and micro level. Macro level is a society, your community, your kingdom, and all that. Micro level is you as an individual or as your family, right? So if you see the pattern, right, whatever is applicable at the macro level, the conflicts and all the motivation for earning money, right? It is the consumerism, right? The society is all about consumerism, right? You're driving sales, you want to earn money, you want to become rich, one country versus the other country, right? The same concept can be applied at the micro level, right? We are earning money, we are also trying to save money, and we are also wanting to be rich, and we also want to compete with others in the status and the level, right? So there is a conflict there on how to balance between those two extremes, the right wing and the left wing in the society, where one want to do austerity, one want to be liberal, conservative and liberal. And here, also at the micro level, you are like, okay, I don't want to do all these austerities. Why does it matter to me? Versus on the other side, if you have the religious inclination that you want to do, right? So there's always a struggle and you need to seek a balance. And so if you see, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has laid out the groundwork on how you can tackle at the micro level, and so gradually you can influence the macro level, right? But if you want to influence the macro level, you need the cooperation between the sannyasis and the kshatriyas, the king, the ruler, who needs to set that agenda of, okay, we need to set or follow those religious principles. And then that religious principles are guided by the Brahmanas. And then the situation of a conducive environment is stopped. The society is organized in such a way that people see that and they are favorable to it. But how do people relate to that and be favorable to it is by individually practicing what has been laid out by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our ISKCON movement and founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Right. So um, let's discuss that a little bit more. Right. So um, here there's reference to the stages of Naimisharanya, and here is also Suta Goswami says to them, saying that because of Maharaj Parikshit trying to check Kali, check Kali's movement, right, or penetration, the sages were able to successfully conduct the uh, ceremonies, right, like the yajnas for 1,000 years. So a little bit of background there, right? Like, when did Kali enter? When Krishna left. 5,000 years ago, when Krishna left this world, Kali entered. But the effects of the Kali were not there fully until when? Until Maharaj Parikshit left this world, right? So Maharaj Parikshit was intelligent and able enough to check the influence of Kali to spread, right? And when he left, Kali started spreading. And the sages, they came to this place of Naimisharanya from multiple places, and they wanted to do this yajna for what? For the benefit of the Kali Yuga people. They were all three Kali yajnas. So basically, they can see the past, present, and the future. So because they knew what was coming for the age of the people at the age of Kali, they wanted to do this yajna so that they can be protected. So when Krishna left this world, who followed? Pandavas. Yudhishthira Maharaj, he felt that, oh, Krishna has left, he's finished his pastimes, so there is no meaning for me to live in this world. So what he does, he coronates Parikshit Maharaj as the king of Hastinapur, and then he starts walking. His way of living this world was to walk until he falls down, right? Doesn't eat, no sleep, no other activities. He just walks. He sets out to the north from Hastinapur to Himalayas. Seeing that, his four brothers also follow him, and their wife, Draupadi, also follows him. So the first to leave this world was Draupadi, then Sahadev, Nakul, Arjun, Bhim, and finally Yudhishthira Maharaj. Right? So they leave this world, and Parikshit Maharaj is very skillful. He has the blessings of the Kuru dynasty, so he's able to have an able administration. Right? When he saw Kali doing two things, right? One is torturing the Mother Earth, personified as a cow, and demolishing the dharma, the form of bull, right? So those are all personified. And he saw the Sudras who was dressed as a king and torturing and demolishing dharma. So he gets upset, he gets angry, and he is determined. He's an able king, he is determined, and he takes his sword to punish Kali, to kill Kali. But what happens? Kali immediately surrenders to Parikshit Maharaj. So Kali he's also a demigod, but he's personified here in the form of a Sudra. Sudra is not a Kshatriya, a king. So that's why he surrenders immediately. If he was a Kshatriya, he would have challenged Kali with like, let's do a battle, right? He didn't do. He surrenders. So then Maharaj Parikshit is a righteous king. So when somebody surrenders, you give shelter. And if that's not the case, none of us will have this opportunity to live in this world and have the opportunity to do Sankirtan and be corrected in our position. Right? That's what Krishna says. Right? You surrender unto me, I will free you from all sinful reactions. So even if you surrender and if there is no forgiveness, then where is the opportunity for us to get corrected and develop in our spiritual journey? So the same principle, Maharaj Parikshit also follows, and he says, okay, I'm going to spare you, but I'm going to banish you from my kingdom. So Kali, there's no other place for him to go because the whole earth is ruled by Parikshit Maharaj. So where will Kali go? So Kali says, I cannot leave your kingdom because there is no other place outside of your kingdom. It's so nice, well administered. So you have to give me some places that I can stay, and I will keep quiet and I will not disturb anybody. So Maharaj Parikshit says, okay, here are the four places where you can go and reside, right? And we'll talk about those four places. But Kali was not able to find those four places. So that is why in the purport, Prabhupada says Parikshit Maharaj cheated Kali, right? He's giving the benefit or the blessing saying that, okay, you can go and stay in these four places. But that four places doesn't exist in the kingdom. So basically, he's trying to cheat him. So, but did Kali find those places? No. So he comes back and said, I cannot find those four places that I can stay. So please allow me to stay. Give me another place. So the fifth place is Parikshit Maharaj says, okay, you can go and stay where there is gold, a lot of wealth. And it's found everywhere. because he has been very righteous, and all those four ashramas have been functioning well. They were all doing their duties, so they were all there was good wealth and money and gold. So Kali was able to go and take shelter. But what Maharaj Parikshit didn't realize was his crown was also gold. So Kali stayed in the gold, the form of his crown also. So in the future chapters, you will see how Kali influenced Maharaj Parikshit's consciousness that ended up in his curse. Then because of that, he had to leave this world, right? So that time, the difference between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Parishit Maharaj is Yudhishthira Maharaj walked to leave his body. Parishit Maharaj stayed in one place. He listened to Krishna Katha for 7 days, and then he was finally killed by the snake bird. So, what are the four places where Maharaj Parikshit said you can go and stay? Why those four places were selected, and why we didn't have those four places? Right. So let me see if I can. So in the purport, there are four principles repeated again and again, right? So here, there is Prabhupada doesn't mention about Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, or any of that sort. He's trying to establish a fundamental principles of religion that is across any denominations, right? You go and talk to anybody from any religion, they are going to accept these. Yes, these four are important fundamentals, principles, right? There is no conflict in that, right? But it is the problem of nobody wants to follow these four. So, what are those four? Um, can I share? Um, how do I share my screen? What's the shortcut now? Control?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Windows.
Right. Okay, we can see. So what I did was I tried to consolidate this four uh, um, principles into a small table and see if it makes sense, right? And then let's connect to our four regulative principles because of this. Um, so what are the four principles? Dharmas, the principles of dharma are austerity, mercy, cleanliness, and truthfulness. Tapa, Dhaya, Saucham, and Satyam. So when the bull was there, the bull already had lost 3 legs. When Kali was trying to torture the bull, he was trying to break the fourth leg on which the bull was standing. And what was the fourth leg that was still there? It's truthfulness. So in which yuga these legs were lost? So Satya Yuga, austerity was lost. Treta Yuga, mercy was lost. Dwapara Yuga, cleanliness was lost. And in Kali Yuga, truthfulness is still staying. And that is what the Kali was trying to destroy. So how does that, uh, these dharmas are the opposite of that as are those adharmas, right? So austerity's opposite is sense enjoyment. Daya, mercy's opposite is cruelty. Cleanliness opposite is filthiness. And truthfulness opposite is lying, right? So When these four dharmas are destroyed, these four adharmas take over, right? And how are these four adharmas created? By intoxication, sense enjoyment is prevailing. By meat eating, you are demonstrating cruelty. By illicit sex and prostitution, filthiness is established. And by gambling, you are lying. So by this, these four principles will fall down, resulting in a dharma. And and the way we defend ourselves, right? Like at a macro level, you can say we need to close all bars, wine shops, and all that, right? And then we need to close all the slaughterhouses, right? So that meat eating can be stopped and the cruelty can be stopped. We need to close all the places where you're enabling illicit sex, like prostitution and all those hotels and things like that. Then, to maintain truthfulness, you will say at the macro level, we need to stop gambling, raise houses, and all that stuff. But it is not that simple and easy. There is not a single leader who is determined, like Maharaj Parikshit, to rule in such a way and make a determination and establish saying that I'm going to do all this, I'm going to close all these facilities. But it's difficult, right? In a society where there is opposite ideologies, right? So if you go and talk to the people who are engaged in prostitution and illicit sex, most of them would say they're not doing it for because they like them doing it, because there's no easy way for them. That's the easiest way for them to earn money, right? And there's so much backstory behind that. So if you turn it off, then where will they go get earn money? So then you reason out and you justify that I need to maintain that so that I can give him livelihood for these people. Same thing for intoxication, right? So it's a great example for the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, where they have legalized, right? They have government sponsored wine shops, right? Why? Because if you don't legalize and regulate it or keep open and sponsored by the government, people find ways to get illicit material which are poisonous. Because, and if it's poisonous, they drink and they die. So our hospitals were flooded by people who were poisoned by consuming alcohol that is poisonous. So to prevent that, the government said, okay, now let me provision in a structured way so you can legally buy. At least you will not die because you are not consuming poisonous quantity, but then you still have that enjoyment. But that's not good either, because there are a lot of stories where people get drunk and they come and ill treat their family, their women. They spend all the money in the world and they find ways to go and drink. So what is happening is they are not able to control their senses. So it's always are interconnected, right? So if you want to intoxication results in sense enjoyment, and because you have lost your senses or your consciousness, and you're doing it for that purpose only because you're already sad, you've lost a loved one or something, and then you're trying to take a shortcut and say, let me forget about it for a couple of hours by indulging myself in intoxication so that I forget about the reality and I feel that I am liberated there for that time, right? So then the same thing, meat eating, right? It's a business. It's all related to the consumerism, right? The money factor. I was hearing when I was commuting before the pandemic to work, I used to hear NPR. So they were talking about the industry in China, where how they can farm, raise pigs, and the different type of products that can they can make from this one animal, and they can sell. and they can make a lot of money, right? So the government has to run, so they have to earn money and generate money, generate uh, employment. So all this industry is like generating employment. Look at how many people are working in that meat business, right? You have to pack it, you have to freeze it, you have to transport it, you have to store it. All the way, there are people earning money for their livelihood, right? Now, if you close all that, what happens to everybody, right? So every same thing with gambling, right? You can keep justifying that why I need to maintain all this for the society. But on the other hand, you know every single aspect ends up into trouble, right? A lot of wealth causes one step. Like if I have a lot of money, what do? I go and engage myself in all this sense enjoyment. And then what happens? It results in always a trouble, right? We don't want all this trouble, but we are indulging ourselves and doing things that leads us into trouble, right? Um, so anyway, that's at the macro level. So you need to have an able kingdom and a realization from intelligent people, the spiritual guidance for the able administrator to differentiate what are the good and the bad of these, right? And then even if you close all these stuff, right, how do you still continue to generate revenue? How do you keep people employed? How do you people engaged? That's a whole different story, right? We don't want to get into that debate here. But that's the macro level. And you can relate the same thing at a micro level as well, right? Like, so if, as individuals, if we follow all this, we fall down, right? We are not following these principles, so we cannot make spiritual progress. So Prabhupada has given this four regulative principles. What does regulation mean, right? It's like regulation means you are fine tuning, you're modifying your lifestyle to make it favorable to follow these four principles, right? Austerity. A simple example. What is austerity? Austerity is putting forward your spiritual progress over your sense enjoyment, even if there is a little bit of bodily discomfort, right? Say, for example, I had to give this class today morning. So I woke up at 4 o'clock to prepare. So there was a little bit of austerity. If I had not to give this class or engage in this uh, practice, I would have slept that extra 2 hours, which is like sense enjoyment, right? I think I will feel good. I will sleep longer. But a little bit of sacrifice, an hour or two, is a small austerity. Example, right? Then you're chanting for 2 hours. It's a small austerity. If you are not chanting at the 2 hours, imagine what else you would be doing. You would be seeing TV, or you will be with friends, or you're doing something else. Again, all that is connected to your sense gratification. The small austerity on a daily basis, you can do chanting. So that is the four regulative principles that at a micro level that somebody can follow to make progress or make advancements in your spiritual journey, right? And at least from ISKCON standpoint, our center is our goal is to serve, uh, and the way it has been established, as we talked about in the last Sunday feast, right? You start with serving, and then that leads to hearing, the taste for hearing, and then when you have the taste for hearing, Lord Krishna within the heart cleanses you. And then when the heart is cleansed, you get established that Bhakti Yoga is the way to move forward as an irrevocable fact. And when that is established in your mind, your lower tendencies are minimized. The higher tendency is the mode of goodness is established. When the mode of goodness is established, you are happy. And when you are happy, you are able to realize the scientific uh, truth of the God, right? Once you know the scientific truth of the God, then your material attachment in the heart is cut, and then all your doubts are gone, and the reactions of your sinful his sins are cut, and then you are performing this devotional service more happily, and you realize the self is master and not the material body the master. Right? So that's the path that has been established and given to us. And so if you follow that, and if you follow these four regulative principles and chant, you are going to be successful in making progress in spiritual journey. So I was hearing some lectures. The easy way to remember that is acronym is MATCH. M is for mercy, A is for austerity, C is for cleanliness, T is for truthfulness, and H is holy name. So Radhesham Prabhu's class had this word match. So, okay, 2 minutes. I want to tell a small story and I'll stop. Okay, holding on. We all want to hold on to our wealth, right? And in Prabhupada in this purport has given 50% you spend on uh, Sankirtan movement or Krishna service, 25% for you and 25% the family. Um, it all depends upon at what level you are in the spiritual progress and you can relate to these statements. Day one, if somebody is coming to the temple and you hear this, you're like, wow, these people are all behind my money. I'm not going to come to this temple anymore. Right? It's not only ISKCON. Any temple you go, there is always people asking for money. Why are they asking for money? You don't easily realize that on day one. Right? If you are not in US, if you are in India, right? If you are in a small town, village, or city, there are hundreds of temples, right? You walk every step, every corner. There is a Ganapati temple, there is a Shiva temple, so many temples. Generally, normally people, what do? They stop, they put $5 in the hundi, or 5 rupees, 10 rupees, whatever that is, they do, they give. And they pray for something, some benefit, like, oh, I'm going for an interview today. I have an examination today. I'm doing this, doing that. Please help me to remove any um, obstacles, right? And you give money. Without realizing itself, you're giving, right? And if you accumulate, add up all that, it's a lot of money that you have given, right? It naturally happening. And then also, they're also like they're building big temples so that they need money to build. You can debate, why do you need to build this big temple? Why do you need to build this big facility? And that is causing us to say, I need more money, and you keep asking money, right? So let's take a small example. This is a small temple. Ramtita Prabhu sends on a monthly basis the financial statement. How many of us have opened it and see, right? What's the financial status of this temple? Okay. Yes, Prabhu. What was that? Last year, how much did we were in plus or in minus? Whole year. Yeah. Ranchor says that minus 30,000. So if you open and see our statement, you will realize that the temple has no money. Okay, then where did the money go? Open the statement and see. Is there a place where you would have avoided any of those expenses? No, we are not lavishly spending. What we are doing is we are serving prasadam for free. And we are doing all this activity for why? Whose benefit we are doing this? It is for you and me to come closer to Radha Natabar. Right? We are doing it for you. It's not for accumulating wealth for the temple. So that's the way this is all done is to provide opportunity for people to sanctify their wealth, their earnings. By donating to good cause to Krishna, you are able to sanctify your wealth or your earnings. So anyway, the reason I'm trying to say here is, at least for our temple, for when somebody is asking for money, it's not because that Prabhupada said, or somebody said, hey, you need to give 50% of your, we're not looking for 50% of your earnings. It is whatever you could to help, right? And then gradually, if you are advancing in the spiritual movement and you engage in service in the temple, then you realize what it makes to put together an event, right? Like I'll go in Prabhu's program. There's so much, right? It's not only money, it's also your time you can contribute that accounts for it, right? So for the decoration, if you had engaged a third party person to decorate, they would have charged $10,000. But then our devotees volunteered, put their time and effort and did the decoration, so we saved $10,000. So it all accumulates to, comes to money, right? So it's not the material money, it is also your time and energy. That's all contributing towards the 50% that Prabhupada has been recommending. That's the maximum, right? You can start slow, small. And then before I came to ISKCON, my donation would be multiple places, right? But then you can narrow it down and focus to one organization. I want to give money still, but I want to give everything to one place. And that one place is ISKCON, right? So that way, if everybody can uh, focus and so that's one way to deal with that. How do I give charity for the Krishna consciousness movement? Right? So again, one small story. I was listening to a class where there's a poor mom and a son, and the mom, whatever she earns, she would give 50% in charity, and the son would say, Mom, I don't have anything. I'm not eating properly. I don't have good education. I'm asking for some money for myself, but you're not giving me, but instead you're giving to charity. And so he's asking this question, and the mom says, I'm very poor. I'm not well educated. I cannot answer all this, but I know what I'm doing is right. But if you need to answer, go to Lord Brahma and ask. So the boy starts walking to see Lord Brahma, and he meets the king. The king knows where this boy is going. So he tells, when you go see Brahma, ask this question. I have a pond. I dig a whole big pond, but the pond is never filled with water. I don't know why. Please go and ask Brahma. So the boy said, yes, I will go and ask. He continues to walk. He meets a crippled man. Crippled man is so worried and he's in remorse and says, ask Brahma why he has put me in this situation. And son said, the boy says, yes. He goes, he sees a big tree and he takes shelter. He rests in the tree. The tree says, when you meet Lord Brahma, please ask me why there are no fruits coming out of my tree. The boy says, yes. And then he walks and then he sees a snake stuck in a hole. The snake is not able to come out or go in. So the snake says, oh boy, can you ask Lord Brahma, why am I stuck like this? So the boy then finally meets Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma says, I know why you have come. Now I will give answers for these 4 questions, and you can go and tell them. So he says, tell to the king that you have a beautiful daughter, you're holding on to her, and you're not letting her to get married. The day you let her go, your pond will be full. He says, go tell the crippled man that you have so much knowledge that you have accumulated, but you're holding everything within you. The moment you share your knowledge to somebody, all your problems will be gone. It tells to the tree that there is a lot of treasure under your tree. Once you give the treasure to somebody, the tree will start having fruits. Then finally, he says about the snake, go tell the snake that he has a diamond in his head. Once he gives the diamond to somebody else, the snake will be free. So the boy says, what about my question? Lord Brahma says, go and tell the answer to these 4 people. You will find the answer for yourself. So basically, he goes, first he meets the snake, and he says, if you give the diamond to somebody else, you'll be free. Oh, is that so? He gives the diamond to the boy. Suddenly the boy is rich now. And the snake is free. He comes out of the hole, goes to the tree and says that, looks like there is so much treasure underneath. If you give the treasure to somebody, you'll start having fruits. The tree said, "Oh, is that so? Let me give all the treasure to you." The boy is much more richer, and the tree starts having fruits. He goes to the crippled man and says, Brahma said, "You have so much knowledge in yourself. You have accumulated it. If you share it to somebody else, then you will be free of all this distress." The man says, "Oh, is that so?" And he transfers all his knowledge of education and everything to this boy. So the boy is suddenly not only rich, but he has a lot of knowledge. He comes to the king and he says, "If you give your daughter to be married, your pond will be filled with water." King said, "Is that so? You're already rich. You're young. You're right. I will give my daughter to you for wedding." They go get married, and the water is filled. So the boy realizes what her mom was doing was she was giving everything up front, like 50% of charity, and then now it's all coming back to him, right? If you hold on to something, right, you are not going to make progress. The mom, though she was poor, she was not holding on to her wealth or whatever 50% of the money that she was earning. Little bit of money she was learning, she was not holding on to it. She was giving. All that comes back, right? So the idea here is you are not going to give money thinking that everything is going to come back later on, right? If it comes back, it's a byproduct of the good deeds, what you're doing, and you are making progress in your life, both materially and also spiritually. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can share.
To give the class and then finally we decided that I'm okay.
Yeah, the first point about cooperation, sannyasis and the king.
Yeah.
So some things about this, in our current society, it may be not practical to get government support immediately. There have been instances like Narendra Modi is very favorable towards ISKCON, but not everywhere it's like that. So we should try our best, but also we should emphasize the micro level, book distribution, getting people on the ground to get Krishna conscious first. And then the macro level will naturally follow. Because if we're in a democracy, the people are the ones who are voting for the leaders. So if the people are Krishna conscious, they'll vote for Krishna conscious leaders. So we can start there. But also, I think a good example of that is celebrated today, because today in Cleveland there's Ratha Yatra. And as we know, Pratapurudra Maharaj was very, very favorable to Lord Chaitanya's movement. On many occasions, he would save Lord Chaitanya, he would help Lord Chaitanya, like, for instance, Lord Chaitanya ordered Ramananda Rai, please give up your job under Raj Prataparudra's service. And Raj Prataparudra said, okay, I will let you go and I will give you full pension. So you can use that money in Krishna's service. And then there's another story, one of Ramananda Rai's brothers, Gopinath Patanayaka, he had 200,000 like conch shells in debt. They used conch shells as currency. And he was going to be thrown on, like, given the death penalty. But immediately Pratapurudra Maharaj said, no, there's no need to give him the death penalty. Let him go, and let his family go, don't arrest them. So in this way, he was very favorable to the process of Krishna consciousness. And he was also a very wonderful devotee in and of itself. So that also helped spread. That's an example of that. And then also one point about the regulative principles. It's important to know that prohibition happened in the 1910s, 1920s. It failed miserably because although we stopped the external manifestation of it, or at least the legalized manifestation, we didn't stop the internal propensity to do that. The internal propensity to stop enjoying comes from a higher case. Vishaya Vinivartate Nirahara Siddhinara Sovarjana Sopyasya Paramdishya Nivartate. Bhagavad Gita 2.59 says that we may have our lower desires, but we cannot give up lower desires until we have higher desires. So the higher desire is Krishna. So the focus has to be, Prabhupada says, the proof of this Krishna consciousness movement is to see that these American boys who were hippies, they were doing drugs, they were engaging in all sorts of sinful activities, they've given it up with this. Although other really high class people who are in very high positions in other ways can't give these things up. So the focus is that we have to give them up, but we have to substitute with something else. Because the truth of the matter is they give us pleasure. So the only way we can give up that inferior pleasure is to get a superior pleasure. So the focus will be on on chanting and hearing. That's the main thing. Of course, they have to be done in tandem. You cannot just say that you'll only chant and then not make an effort. You have to make the effort, but they have to be done in tandem. You have to give up what's unfavorable and accept what's favorable.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that's nice summary, nice conclusion for the class.
Bro, I had a question. So, what a fantastic way to put this together. Yeah, the presentation, this that one slide. The four principles of dharma, then what, how they are like maintained and how they are not destroyed, and then the cause of destroy and how our regular principles are. I was thinking, this is the first time I thought, so I had kind of memorized that and then I never thought about it. But so, for example, mercy. So, mercy is why it's caused by meat eating, right? Lack of meat. Yeah, caused by meat eating, but its mercy's opposite was cruelty.
Yeah,
But the cruelty can be, it's a principle, right? So cruelty principle can be performed by so many other things. So why just focus on meat eating? Like cruelty murders, or like even after intoxicating and then hurting others, that is also cruelty. Like cruelty basically means to take away the happiness from somebody's life without their permission. So why only focus on meat eating? Same way, filthiness, you said, right? Opposite of cleanliness is filthiness. So it is gone by prostitution or illicit sex. But there are other things also that can take away the cleanliness principle. So why just these four and why not others? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, maybe you already know the answer.
I'll try. I don't know. I'm not. So, simple answer I would say is why just the meat eating and particularly the cow, right? Like in at least what I know is cow provides milk, right? Milk is an essential aspect for us to live, and at least from our philosophical standpoint, milk is needed for the development of tissues in the brain, so you can understand what is in the Vedas and scriptures and study, right? And also, cow is the most favorite for Krishna, right? All his leela is all around sort of a cow and cow herd, right? So basically, that's the topmost, at least from. There are so many, as you said, cruelty is there. But what is that one? If you define, you can understand the extent of cruelty, right? And the same thing, lust is the most difficult thing that somebody can give up, right? After all this list, anger, greed, and envy, and other things, the last thing that somebody gives up is probably the most difficult thing that somebody can give up would be the lust, right? So that's what exemplifies lust is filthiness caused by. So if you tackle those core things, the other smaller things will automatically fall in place. And it'll be difficult to focus on the thousands of things that are causing filthiness, thousands of things that are lack of mercy or causing cruelty and all that. Like so, if you see on the internet, there's always a debate. And one day, like, okay, you're talking about animal killing. What about you're eating avocados, and then because of growing avocado, thousands of bees are killed. Isn't that not cruel? You're consuming the avocado after killing thousands of smaller creatures, right? What's the answer for us? Well, the answer for us is yes, we offer yoga. We know everything, like even the greens that are coming in. When you pull out those greens, that carrot or whatever root vegetables, you're killing so many microorganisms like worms and all that stuff. So there is no easy way to be 100% pure. And so there is a way out. Krishna says, if you just offer it to me, I take all the sins and you are clean. So that is why it's called a sanctified food, right? So there is answer everywhere in our Gita and Bhagavatam, right? In our scriptures, and everything is there, explained very well by our acharyas. It is just that our framework and our readiness we need to be open to hear, and then we just debate inside ourselves to say, okay, until I heard all this, I was doing all this. Now that I know, is it still right for me to do this? Right? So the other example is you cannot understand all these adharmic principles and then say, okay, I'll follow these dharma, I want to follow, but I also want to continue to do all these adharmic things. It's never going to work. Because when you start doing dharma, your bhakti flame or the yajna, the fire is coming out. But then when you start doing these adharmic activities, it is basically pouring water on the fire. So that is why we always struggle. Right? In our case, the adharmic activity is like sometimes you fall down, or basically you have given up or not able to follow one of those regulative principles, automatically you lie about it, so you are not following two regulative principles, right? And then you are so you start losing taste in your spiritual progress. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question or not. I started digressing. Thank you. Thank you. Any comments, Prabhu? Last minutes.
Yeah, so Prabhu, I'm thinking about Parikshit granted that space to Kali in gold, so that basically the principle what Prabhupada was trying to say is that you gold resembles to the wealth or
Yeah.
money, and we want to, like Prabhupada want us to like donate,
Yeah, use it for the service.
use the service of the Lord, yeah, so that way we can. So Maharaj Parikshit didn't realize this, that if I grant and maybe people won't give that much and they might get impure and all that.
Yeah, so that is why it's also in the one of the lectures they say we have to be careful, right, on what you give or what you say, right? It's a slippery slope, it's a razor edge, right? So what was the other option, right? He said gold. So okay, so that's the downside of Maharaj Parikshit not killing Kali, right? But the good side is, the advantage is, Kali Yuga is the easiest way to come out of this or lessen the effect of Kali is by following Sankirtan movement, right? If you do Sankirtan Yajna, chant Hare Krishna, and then follow the security principles, it's easy to lessen the effect of Kali when compared to the other three yugas. So that is why the reward, the punishment and the reward within that's the chapter. There is a good and a bad. Right? The bad is Kali is still there, and we can see the effect of Kali everywhere if you are not regulated. The good is you can easily defend against the effect of Kali by following those four regulated principles and simply chanting. So,
Your question was, Prabhu, that why Parikshit Maharaj didn't know that gold will, when Kali resides in the gold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the Prabhu answered it, yeah, that why means Parikshit Maharaj already, didn't he know that it's gonna create more problems, like if I...
Yeah, even in that previous verses, text, this is text number 39.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that it is said that because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. So gold is like at that time the highest currency. Yeah, the highest currency. And for example, even here, what is the most opulent thing on the planet right now? Like for any car vehicle, if I ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Ferrari or Lamborghini. So will simple people have Lamborghini, Ferrari? No. Only those whose ego is so puffed up and who have so much of lust, envy, right, greed, they only go for all these things. So that's why Parikshit Maharaj very intelligently gave that, okay, wherever there is this thing,
automatically other four
other
things
four
will be there. So
So
that's why it's like if you have accumulated wealth, a lot of rich people, what do? They indulge in these four things, right? To sense enjoyment, sense gratification. It's not like there are so many rich people, they are also good, they are all devotees also. And so that's why they have chosen to regulate and guard themselves against these adharmic activities by following these four regulatory principles and chanting and doing devotional service, right? So it's not like we are failing to give up all the wealth, give up all that, and then go. So that's the beauty, right? So being sannyasis and so we are grahastas, so we can be in our own position and not give up everything, but still practice these and guard ourselves from the effect of Kali and make progress spiritually.
Especially I like that since we have so much attachment to money, so
Yes.
it's very difficult to give it up, but I
Right.
like your solution, like you start giving up little bit, and then slowly it
Yeah.
will purify your
Yeah, and then last 2 days there was a talk about spectrum of your devotion. Which spectrum you are in, right?
Yeah.
The realization of the importance of giving money or spending the money towards Lord Krishna's service will become more relevant, right? If you are on the left end, where you're beginning or you don't have full faith, you're going to be questioning, why do I need to give money?
Right.
Right? But then if you're on the other extreme, the spectrum, like you're mature, you're fully convinced, you're surrendered, and you're full faith, and you wanted to, you see the benefits of being Krishna conscious, then you're going to find ways how I can contribute. Either money or time by doing service, all that accounts, right? So it all depends upon the maturity of a certain person. The same person can be in one extreme at certain time, and then as he progresses in his spiritual journey, he switches from one extreme and he can make progress gradually. Right? So that's my heart. Thank you, Prabhu.
Grant Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Hare.